Love that intro.
I know,
That's
right?
very cool. I was excited when you sent that to me the first time.
So is this okay? All right. So welcome to Paranormal XL Podcast, Gigi, of course, and with me today as a special co-host, we know him from before, Ed from Ghost and Grub. Welcome.
Yeah, awesome to be here again, and awesome to be in a completely different genre of the paranormal. Something I've been very passionate about since yay high. I wasn't always this tall, and but I have heard stories from my father when I was much younger that I'll share, and other personal experiences that I've had in terms of not just obviously the paranormal, but with UFOs. Call them aliens. I have it's the same exact perspective that I have with the paranormal and spirits, and I take that same concept and apply it to UFOs and aliens. So I'll definitely expand on that, and very excited to be here.
Yes, it is kind of neat, like you said, to do. Uh, we're all about ghosts. I still have, I have my Ghostbuster pin on.
Right.
That's always a fun topic. However, to be able to reach over into another big topic. It is fun. I've learned a lot so far in this season, and just mind blown going down these rabbit holes and trying to stay in my own reality because you can get lost.
Oh, it's very easy to get lost in the proverbial sauce, if you will,
It is.
with UFOs, and because of the genre it's in. I mean, you take a look at even down to locations,
Mhm.
and my locations, you're talking Bermuda Triangle, you're talking the Devil's Triangle, you're talking about the Bridgewater Triangle up north and northeast, right? You're talking
Yeah.
about the triangle up in Alaska, the Alaskan Triangle, right? And there's certain areas of hotbeds, and of course, the most notable mention would be Skinwalker Ranch. All of these areas have extreme UFO activity,
Hmm.
but they also have extreme paranormal activity as well. So are they connected? I don't know. That's the thing, and that's where there's that
It's unknown.
crossover that's there.
Yes, that's what I mean. Intrigues me about paranormal just in general. Does it? So many people are like, "Oh, it's just ghosts." No, it's literally not just ghosts. It expands like to infinity and beyond. Like,
No, absolutely. And when you take any context of a great movie of Interstellar,
mhm.
they thought the ghost was, well, a ghost. They thought what was an alien on their way through. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm starting to ruin it for you if you haven't seen it by now. Um, what they thought were interactions with aliens were actually interactions with ourselves through time.
Mhm.
And that's why I say I take a look at this through a different set of glasses here, a different set of lenses, if you will. That is it so far fetched to say that it's us in a different time frame? These are just
Right.
hypotheses. These are just ideas that are put out there in terms of what they are and what the paranormal activity that we experience. When we get EVPs, or when we hear the bump in the night, when we hear,
Right.
you know, a loop through time,
Hmm.
where it's not really a haunting, it's a time lapse.
Yeah,
These are
that's
things that
what
people
was.
all
Yeah.
laugh at you, to an extent. Some people laugh at you, but they're not laughing when, science starting to come out saying, "No, that's very real. We just can't explain it." I'm like, I'm not going to apologize for things that I've witnessed and seen. In the
Exactly.
context of what you've dubbed, always ask why or why not.
Yeah.
You know, we always have to question. We've been a species that's always questioned, and that's how we've grown. That's how we've learned.
Yes.
You know, just think
Agreed.
about the technology we have right now at this very moment. With these phones and these technology that have 10 times more power than the Saturn V rocket, right?
Hmm.
It's absolutely insane how as species we've advanced over the hundreds and
Hmm.
hundreds of years. You know, I mean, hell, we'd be burned for witchcraft 300 years ago, 400 years ago for what we have right now, right?
Yes.
So that's
And
why
all
I'm
they had
saying,
was their words. They were just saying things.
yeah, no, absolutely. But there's still things back then that boggle the mind, and as ancient, ancient alien theorist would theorize. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
right? Um, but yeah, no, it's it's not just a necessarily fun topic it's very, in my opinion, it's very humbling because you realize how small you really are in the grand
Yes.
scheme of things.
It's humbling, but it's also scary if you don't know where to start and and I think that's where people stop asking why. And you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a whole, I think humanity, we've came to the point where, well, the unknown is scary. So many people live their life by being scared so they don't do something. At least ask why. Don't be just content with the answer because you can wrap your head around it.
Hmm.
It's okay not to be able to wrap your head around it. That's why we keep advancing. We keep learning and we learn because we keep asking why. And now we've gotten to the point where they have released so much information and like this could happen, guys. So many people can't wrap their I know what I want to say and I can't get my words out. um yeah, that just keep asking why. Just because you're content with the answer is, well, we just don't know what it is, so no more questions. We're out by no. But why? Follow and ask them. Write them letters, write them emails.
Yeah,
Why?
being respectful to other people's ideas. Don't conform to other people's I can't say ideas, but their view is their view, and you got to respect it,
Mhm.
right? And I love a healthy conversation with a skeptic because it's another
Yes.
perspective. The
Mhm.
issue I have, and I think most people have, is people being disrespectful and discounting you, and then obviously then there's a name calling. I can't have an educated conversation with you just based on how narrow-minded you are, right?
Yes.
That's like I can go on and on in terms of just cynical insults here, which are like my favorite, along with wit and sarcasm. But I digress, and we'll move on. It's
Yes.
it's the fact where I think it's very healthy for people to ask why, and then
Mhm.
let's break it down and see why not, or why it could be. Um,
Right. I- In in the terms of, aliens and such, I had something I wanted to say and I can't remember.
aliens.
Aliens, they got me. I know it's kind of freaking me out down there that I have in my screen there. uh, trying to have a topic with somebody about aliens that's just like, no, they're just like, they're not real. It's not. And I'm like, we're here. Why not? And then they get so frustrated and will shut you down and call you crazy, conspiracy theorist, whatever. If you say, I believe, or I want to believe and I ask questions. I don't want to say they're like naysayers, but because they can't wrap their head around something other than just us here being on Earth, they shut everything down. And I think it's more frustration within them because they can't open up their mind.
Well, to put things into context here and give some perspective from their side, it's just they can't fathom the idea of extraterrestrial life.
Mhm.
Let's not even talk about this, like this alien, this gray that you have here on the screen. We're talking microbial, right? Small
Mhm.
life, other forms of life that did and has existed or still does exist.
Right.
Um, there was something I've seen a while back, and I've been biting at the bit to share this quote, but to add again perspective to this, our oceans, right?
Mhm.
Our planet is primarily made out of covered with water. Now, when you go to the beach, chances are you're never going to see a shark. They're below the water. They very rarely come close to shore, typically.
And they're
Um,
scary.
right? But they're out there. They're out
Yes.
there. So if you take a spoon of water and you take that spoon, you look into it, and there's no shark in that spoon. Therefore, there are no sharks in that ocean. That is the perspective that they're taking, right?
Yes. I love
So,
that.
so that's that our and that's just our ocean. We're talking about something that's so big. We can't comprehend the size of the universe. We talk
Mhm.
about billions of light years. You're talking about it takes 8 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes from the light to reach from the sun to the earth,
Right.
right? So it takes a considerable amount of time. The sun right now could, at this very moment, explode, and we would not know for the next 7 to 8 minutes. So we're talking about a so vast. We're talking. It takes billions of years
Yes.
for us to even see the visible end of our universe. So you
Right.
mean to tell me between there and here, and we're talking spherical, that
Mhm.
we are the only intelligent beings here? And you're going to stare at your teaspoon saying that, yeah, this is the definite, and I speak in absolutes. I have a hard time thinking that, right? That's the case. Now, uh, moving on, like, why did I get into UFOs? Well, for a lot of people that don't know, my dad, my parents, they had me really late in life. My dad was a World War II vet. He was born October 29th in 1924, and so when I was born, he was roughly 60 years old. So he had me really, really late. And I shared some fun facts with you before we, last week. But he's
Mhm.
the one that shared with me that during World War II, a lot of the pilots were having run-ins with UFOs, the very thing that we see right now, these pill-shaped lights and so forth, and they would call them Foo Fighters. And they were seen back then, and he would share the stories of what he saw. He would now he was in the Northeast in Jersey, Delaware, and
Mhm.
grew up through there. He's from Queens, New York, and he would share the stories of stuff that he saw and stuff that even till the day he died would not share with me for whatever reason. Not being
Mhm.
a conspiracy theorist in that extent, but I understand why. He just said, "Keep your faith," is what he would
Mhm.
always say.
Yep.
And the stories that he would share with me. And when I was 7 years old, and I was in an area in Roswell, Georgia, everybody in my neighborhood, it was like right out of a movie. You look left and right, and everybody's staring up.
Up.
And best I can describe it was a dancing star. It was mid to late afternoon, and this thing was going erratic, left to right, up and down. I mean, erratic movement. It would stop and more erratic movement. There was probably about 20, 30 people out there. That is the first time I ever saw a UFO. And like I said, I was about 7 years old when I saw that.
Oh
And
wow.
I know what I saw.
Mhm.
Um, then I was about 12, 13 years old. My dad and I, we were at the gas station, and it was a overcast day. Now, for
Mhm.
all of y'all that have seen the movie Predator, when he goes into that cloaking mode, you can
Mhm.
still see his silhouette to
Yes.
an extent, right? I saw things flying through the not through the clouds, but by the clouds
Mhm.
quickly that were round shaped that looked silhouette, and there was 5 of them. And I will never forget that when I saw it, and I pointed out to my dad. He didn't see them, but he's like, "That wouldn't." I remember, never forget his words. "That would make sense." Never explain why, ever. I found out later that he
What?
did work for the government
Mhm.
for a very long time,
Yep.
but never shared it with me. All he said is that would make sense, and that's it. He would not ever share anything past that. But I'll never forget that was one probably the best sighting in my opinion, in my young adulthood that I ever had
Mhm.
was seeing those things fly over. Not a
Oh yeah.
sound, nothing, just cloaked through. Um, Another hobby of mine is amateur astronomy and astrophotography, and taking pictures in the moon or videos in the moon and catching things there that don't make sense has happened on a routine basis, especially when you see satellites fly over.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. The
Mhm.
only issue I have is when that satellite stops and changes directions and flies off 100 times faster than a satellite should. Satellites don't change direction. Mm. I'm just saying, riddle me that. And a lot of people, oh, it's that was a meteorite, meteorite that turns, right? Um, so that's where I beg, I go back and forth with what is a UFO and what's not a UFO.
Right.
And those things that flew over that were cloaked could very possibly be a skunk's work program. The X program with I think it was called Manta was had a way of bending light around it
Okay.
to cloak itself. And that was an idea that the military has been working on a very long time. Obviously, a lot of it is classified. But
Mhm.
it's out there if you know where to look. Um, but the cloaking mechanisms are out there. A lot of things that Bob Lazar talked about that people called him kooky and nuts for, and the Freedom of Information Act came out. It's not so kooky anymore. if y'all remember, he said in S7 when he would check into work, he'd had to put his hand on a bone on a scanner, and it wouldn't just
Mhm.
scan your fingerprints, but it would scan all the way down to your bone to make sure it
Oh,
was you,
heavens.
right? He drew out a blueprint on what this looked like. Of course, people called him nuts. It's funny how in Nellis Air Force Base, almost 25 years later, they show the same blueprints of what they have and the very thing that Bob saw, and he's like, "Yeah, no, that's the machine. I never thought I'd ever see it again."
It's all about the
Yeah,
timing when you or try to present something like that.
yeah,
There's no doubt in my mind the government has a lot of things that we probably will not see in our lives, or and like I said before, to me that's okay because I think as a whole we're just not ready. It, what whether we'll have the choice to be ready if something ever goes down, that's a different story. Now I have a lot of relatives in the military. I have two cousins that are actually high up in the Air Force. The one also used to work for NASA.
mhm.
Um, I would love to talk to him about things, but I already know I cannot. I've tried. And
And they're
it's
told to stay away from it too. It's
yeah.
not even that they know anything. They're just saying, "Look, don't talk about it. Just
Mhm.
don't. We don't care."
It's
Well, they do care what you know and don't know.
well, right, and that's what he said. It's for your safety. So, okay, that's fair. You know, it's-
Yeah,
but
because they don't know. The uppers don't know what you know and don't know, and if you're just considered a threat, they'll ask questions later.
no, exactly. And I
Yeah.
don't want men in black knocking on my door. I mean,
And that in itself is, a another topic with the MIB. And that's,
yes,
that's no joke with the Men in Black. They've been reported for a very long time, for a multitude of reasons. But yeah, there are things that get reported as UFOs that well, they are identified. So let's clear that up. Not all
yeah,
UFOs are alien origin. I'm not even saying
yeah.
the
That's
ones that are
exactly
don't
where
know we don't
people
know.
go.
Right.
And so they're like, oh, and I was like, no, it's just unidentified flying object. We just didn't know what it was at the time.
Exactly, and it gets reported that, like, I know there are a ton, and we just saw them 5 days ago, 6 days ago fly over, but,
Mhm.
the Starlink system
Yeah.
that's over that, the train of Starlinks that are up there,
Mhm.
those are being called UFOs, when people see them and don't know what they are.
Right.
When a rocket booster loses control, I know one happened over Switzerland, over the Black Sea. It's most likely just a bad rocket from Russia, and
Right.
it spiraled out of control. Well, it really looked like a galaxy spinning on its axis and in
Right.
the night sky. Um, a lot of them can be misconstrued as that. There
Mhm.
are explanations out there for a large majority of what this phenomenon is,
Absolutely.
but it's the 5 to 10% that cannot be explained away at all.
Exactly.
You know? So, like, the video, and I think you have a clip of it,
I
um,
do.
is of when, the Freedom of Information Act came out, and for the first time in United States history, they have come out to officially say there is unknown aerial phenomenon known as UAPs. We call them
Mhm.
UFOs, but UAPs. And in 2004, there was an encounter on the USS Nimitz. It was a simple training exercise, but then they had uh, pill-shaped objects size of a 737 go from 66,000 feet down to an altitude of damn near zero within a matter of seconds. Not only do we not have the technology to withstand the kind of G forces that would entail, we don't have the technology to do that. Period.
Right.
You're talking thousands of miles an hour in a blip to stop on a dime. So they have the technology to manipulate gravity. Um,
Right.
and that's
Mhm.
the only way that you can do that because it's against the laws of physics that hypothetically we have a very we think we have a very good understanding of it, but obviously we do not.
Right.
Just what we can comprehend, but neither
Exactly.
here nor there. But we all don't know the story. This object submerged itself underneath the water just right below the waves, and it sent out what looked like a drone, which is a smaller version of itself, about the size of an F-18. They sent what's called a cricket um, out for surveillance purposes to read it, and they did get it on radar. And the training exercise, I believe there was 3 F-18s that were sent to intercept it, except they
Mhm.
weren't armed. They didn't have anything on them. So it was all visual confirmation. They did see it, and in this video clip, you get to see what they saw.
Let's see.
There's a whole fleet of them. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Oh, thing, dude. Is it? It's not down on us, dude. Well, if there's like another thing, it's rotating.
It's incredible footage, and that it is amazing.
Mhm.
But prior to that, Mexico had released similar footage, and they
Mhm.
sent F-16s to, and they couldn't catch up with it. There wasn't a chance. And they
Yeah.
were one of the first ones. A couple of other countries have released it. In the most recent one, um, we're talking a few months. Aviation China, uh, take it for what it's worth, but the Russian military that have reported UFOs over Kiev and
Mhm.
over parts of Russia ever since the incursion has happened. And so they're reporting more and more right now with lights that are changing colors, that they have a rapid movement. The same thing with pill-shaped formed objects in the sky.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm talking about. That in itself is concrete footage on we don't know what it is. Again, something that can
Right.
rotate on its axis like that. It doesn't have any way to stay flying, right? There's no wings, there are no props, there's nothing
Mhm.
on it, right? And it's incredible. It's to find out what these things are. So it's interesting to actually see Congress talking about it. They introduced
Mhm.
a whistleblower bill to protect whistleblowers. They said mainly politically, but there
Mhm.
is underlying language in there that had been introduced to protect whistleblowers for UAPs. HR 2988 was introduced last year. So I try to stay on top of it. It's very interesting because, like you said, we're not ready. It's for your safety. I just think things from a large government standpoint where they are incrementally bled
Mhm.
in over time to get the populace to say, well, this is the new norm. Okay, cool. This is the new norm. Cool. This is the new
Yeah.
norm. Cool.
Conditioning us to be able to handle that. I'm just not going to go run like a 5K marathon because, well, I'd die. You know, I would have to condition, and even then, I'd probably have a heart attack. But we have to condition ourselves for things like that. Let's say, okay, they present a gray, just looks just like this one. Who knows what he's gonna show us or anything like that. We'd be like, okay, so we see him. What's he gonna do? But then so many things I want to say.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to stop myself because I get all passionate about. Well, then I start going into conspiracy theories, and then it's a whirlwind.
Yeah, and it's hard to talk about conspiracy theories to an extent because there's a lot of mud out there in trying to
Mhm.
decipher what's real and what's not real.
Right.
And some of it can make sense, right?
Mhm.
One of the conspiracy theories was that there's something hiding underneath the Arctic sheet in the South Pole.
Mhm.
That one's not that far-fetched. I mean, keep in mind the poles have moved over, thousands of years. They
Yep.
do move. That's just a fact.
Mhm.
Um, but it was also never it wasn't always covered in ice either. So, Lake Vostok, that's another
Mhm.
topic with what's underneath that lake. If that could be a show all on its own, Lake Vostok, if you're not familiar with it. Um, and but in 2017 there was a very, very interesting series of events that happened where you had multiple world leaders and religious leaders all of a sudden making trips there. Not all at once, but
Mhm.
over the course of a few months.
Yeah.
What did they find and why? When you
Mhm.
have religious world leaders and so forth going there, that's when you start raising an eyebrow and saying, it's not about conspiracy theories now, but that is like, you got to admit that is strange and that is off and
That
why,
is. It's
you
about
know?
why situation. Yeah, because that's not like a vacation spot. Like, so
No,
it's a
unless
very
you're trying
odd
to get,
location.
yeah, yeah, no, no, no. And it was like, World War II, right after World War II, we were gonna go take out them Nazis, and we decided to do a exhibition, expedition, excuse me, for science purposes, and to see if there was anything down there. I forget the size of the naval size that was sent. It was massive, and I think you're
Mhm.
familiar with this story.
Mhm.
They spent tens of millions of dollars, so obviously it was a lot of money back then for this exhibition,
Mhm.
and somehow we lost half of the fleet. What? And that's all documented. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying it's like when you do enough digging, you're starting to put two and two together, right? Then you start realizing, okay, well, it's very real.
Mhm.
And then you start to decipher what is and what's not. It's not a hard pill for me to swallow in terms of alien abductions. Um,
Right.
you see the cow mutilations that have happened. You see a
Mhm.
lot of these stories. I will not mention any names or properties. I do have friends that have property out west that
Mhm.
have sent me pictures that are good salt of the earth human beings that have said that they've had cows mutilated. No blood, nothing that would indicate anybody showed up on the property to do this.
Right.
No tire tracks, no nothing. Just a carcass out there drained of its blood, no eyes, no tongue, one ear missing. Why? We're talking
Mhm.
surgical precision here,
Right. And
right?
no evidence to say that any human had touched it.
Yeah, and it's not a predator.
Right.
Knowing animals, there would be blood, there would be
Mhm.
trails, right? They don't drain the blood completely. They don't do that, right?
Right.
Unless you have a chupacabra episode, and we can talk about that too. But we're talking about like surgical precision here. Again, we can talk about Skinwalker Ranch. That was one thing that notoriously happened there. If you haven't seen the documentary on Skinwalker Ranch, there's a ton of them out there. There are a couple of really good ones that you need to watch. The show is amazing. I love
Mhm.
the show. I'd give anything to actually go out there and do some investigating of my own.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
but everything from the paranormal, poltergeist activity, Bigfoot sightings, skinwalkers, obviously, and
Mhm.
UFOs. And that's what it's saying. Like these areas have a very, very high content of that kind of paranormal activity that is there. So dimensions, whatever it may be, it's very real and it's there. When you have enough people that are reporting over a long period of time of things that have been seen and that they have witnessed, you
Mhm.
can't discount that. They are seeing something. The
Yes.
idea is to ask why and what are they seeing? Not that it doesn't exist and it didn't happen. You're talking millions of people have witnessed and seen these things.
Yes.
Now trying to decipher what they are and what their intent and purpose is.
Mhm.
And
And
it's a,
investigate the situation. Just don't be like, "I don't know." And
so yeah, some people do like to live the ostrich lifestyle,
mm,
right? And and that's okay. God bless you. That's fine. That's you. I can't do that. Like
no.
I can't, the day that God calls me home, I want to look back and say, you know what? I did everything I wanted to do. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's not about buying things. It's not about owning stuff or stuff like that. No, it's about the enjoyment of life, doing
Mhm.
what you want to do when you possibly can do it. Life's
Yeah,
about experiences. And if
absolutely.
it truly do have one shot at being on this rock, I sure as hell don't want to live it in fear. So, it's gotta ask why.
You have to. Even if you don't get the answers, keep asking. Ask it a different way. Because some people are like, well, they'll just flat out ask why. Okay, what? And then no more questions are asked. You have to ask the right people and the right content and the right, there's just never quit asking why. Just like never quit doing your research. When I first started the podcast, that was one thing is You know, a lot of people wanted to talk to me about certain paranormal topics, ghostly topics, and I'd be like, yeah, we're not going to have this conversation. Call me in 2 weeks because I want to remain friends with you. I'm not calling you stupid or anything like that, but if we're going to have this conversation and you want to have an input and you're just going off feeling, which is fine, but let's start it out that way. Let's not, well, it's this because I think it's this. Well, there's other, do your research on the topic, then we can have a conversation about it. You know, it's, I'm not disregarding their feelings about it. I have my own personal feelings about aliens even. But I'm not going to sit here. We probably got different thoughts on aliens, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're wrong. I want to learn from that.
Yeah, and I love that. And that's the thing. It's not, I'm not right. I don't know if I'm wrong. All I know is that I have an idea and a hypothesis of what is happening right now because I follow the data and, well, common sense. I don't want to be so narrow-sighted that I'm going to speak in absolutes and say, well, this is definitely it or it doesn't exist and it doesn't happen. I can't do that because in my mind, you narrow yourself from growing, that you stop learning and you're not willing to expand your train of thought. You're saying, well,
exactly.
no, I'm good with being in this box I'm in and I refuse to think outside of it. So therefore, my spirit animal is the donkey from Family Guy. That's where I'm at. So,
but who the hell am I to say, like, this is absolute because I think it's this way, you know, and that's where I will shut down in a conversation, even with some of the people I love the most, because that's what they do. And I'm like, well, no, who the hell are you? Again, we are so tiny in this whole thing. Just be open-minded. You don't have to. I don't want you to like be on my level at the end of our conversation. I want to be able to learn from each other on the different things, and we both, you know, at the end of the conversation have learned more.
You know, it's funny to think, and as you're saying this, the thoughts came to my mind. You know, over a little over 100 years ago, not, I mean, you could be talking about 1920, and I'd be over 100 years ago. But do you know what it would be like to walk down the streets of New York in a parade with an elephant, or with a gorilla in a cage, or a tiger, or some exotic animal that they have never seen before? People would come from states over and flood the streets. Now we've gotten desensitized and we see them everywhere. Because
Well, yeah, like the old circuses, you know, well, come see the freak show, you know?
Yeah.
No,
So,
you just go to the Walmart. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
I love being on the show. You're not, yeah. Right. Yeah, no, and it's what I'm saying is that people didn't believe a lot of the things existed, like to your point, well before the said internet and the www dots out there. We just went on words and what pictures people could garner or take, and especially words have explored. Now we're in a very much in an information age. We think we are. We thought we were technologically advanced then. We're still, as in my mind, ignorant enough to think that we're that way now. Yes, we're advanced to ourselves, absolutely, in those time frames.
That's exactly how you have to look at it. Yes.
So what I'm saying is there's a wilderness out there that has very, very, very much needs to still be explored. Yes, we know a lot more about space than we do about our oceans. But then again, there are animals and creatures we have still not discovered even on our own planet.
Yeah, exactly.
So it just can't be narrow-sighted with it. And with the governments coming out and saying that and things that are being seen, my favorite, do you have a favorite UFO sighting of all? Does anything stick out to you?
Not really. I've learned so much in the past couple months. Sorry. They're just all coming back at once. It's like, I like to hear about all of them. I don't necessarily have like a favorite one. Like I said, just because a lot of it I've overput a lot of information in there in here.
It is a lot. It is a lot, but you learn to slow down and take it for what it is, and you get to go into that file cabinet in your head and pick out your favorite ones. And there are a couple of notable mentions out there, like one of my favorite was again during World War II is over Los Angeles. You know that story?
I do.
And it's one of the
Yes.
first UFO photos really officially ever taken. They said it was a balloon, and
Mhm.
all the anti-aircraft gun went off, and they said it was an exercise. You guys unloaded on an exercise, okay? But my
Yeah.
favorite is because it was my mom's birthday. It was March 13th, 1997,
Okay.
and it was the Phoenix Lights, where a massive triangular object appeared over the mountains and transversed silently over the city of Phoenix all the way to Tucson. And the thing was absolutely incredibly big. The government's take on it was flares. Flares don't do that.
That's my
Flares don't.
favorite thing is to hear what they're gonna say it is.
It's great. It's borderline a drinking game, right?
It's
They
like
say these cool phrases like you almost can make a haiku out of it, all those they come up with. But yeah, it was swamp gas flares led by the Chinese. Um, but yeah, the Phoenix Lights in particular because it was such a mass sighting.
Mhm.
That's the thing. I don't believe I believe I don't know honestly what to believe, but because you have it's not this one's not public and they've kept it really quiet. S7 out there, which is just south of Area 51,
Mhm.
where Bob Lazar allegedly worked at. And I say allegedly because that can't be confirmed, but we all know he did. It's just one of those things. Um, you know, uh, a majority of all the UFO sightings are seen out in the desert because it's a remote part of the country. And but I also believe we have a lot of technology that's out there in skunk works and dark government programs that are being tested out there on routinely, right?
Right.
Bob even talked about a schedule of when they would test the sports model or when they would test these UAPs out, and it wasn't aliens driving it or flying them. Excuse me, it was us. So reverse alien technology or learning to fly the vehicles that were down. There were 7 particular models that were held in S7. Again, this is all from Bob Lazar. When he went on TV to talk about all of this, he wasn't doing to divulge knowledge to be a whistleblower. He was doing
Right.
it to save his life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So
I had through my notes like a bad host. There was you asked me the question, what was my favorite sighting or
yeah,
what
your
had me.
favorite UFO sighting of all time. Is there anything that stuck out to you?
So there was one, it happened in Kalamazoo. Well, I got the stories from Kalamazoo, Michigan, because it's not that far from here, but like they went over the lakes. I think it split off into 3 over the Great Lakes. Because I talked to Bill Konkoleski about it, the head guy from Michigan MUFON.
Yeah.
And he didn't say a whole lot about it, but because then I started asking, are most of the sightings that they get and then they have to go investigate, does it happen around the water? Is there a reason that it's the water? Is it, the energy that the water, because water produces so much energy and that's what we are as energy beings. Oh, well, that's a whole nother whatever. But, I there's so much in my brain about this. I'm like replaying.
Did it go Rain Man on me?
I really am.
Definitely lights. Definitely lights. 3 of them converge, spinning, definitely lights.
But there was so many people that saw it, and it was
Right.
just phone call after phone call after phone call after phone call of this, and it has remained a huge, I guess, talk of the area because so many people had seen that particular one. Now, I wish that my step grandparents were still alive because they would have been alive during that time. I want to say I believe I was alive at that time. However, it was my step grandfather actually, he was retired from the Navy. So, being out on the water and stuff, I'm sure I'd love to talk to military personnel and see what they have seen. Where was I going with that? But for like if they seen that, just because I know that my step grandfather used to be into it and would, what do I want to say? To hear his outtake on the whole alien thing and like that sighting in Kalamazoo, Michigan. That went way off the rails.
Well, I
I
was
know
just
what I
thinking.
want to say, but
No, 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 you're fine. I want to say that actually want to say I was looking up these numbers, and I apologize for not memorizing them. I typically do when I read them, but on the latest Gallup poll, as of right now, um, some have been alien spacecraft is 41% of people believe that UFOs are alien aircraft, all explained by human activity. Natural phenomenon was 50%. That is down 10%. A few years ago, that was 60%. So there is starting to be a change where people are saying, yeah, no, this possibly could be alien in origin. And ironically, it's because of what they're witnessing, and it's a common sense thing that there's no way that we created this to
right.
our knowledge,
Mhm.
right? Just because it's you take a look. I mean, there's stories. I mean, the stories about our nuclear bases that have uh that have had our nuclear capabilities completely shut down
Mhm.
because one of these UFOs decided to show up on top of it. And it's almost like waving who has the bigger stick here,
Mhm. Yep.
right?
Slow down, Buckaroo. Uh,
So
gosh darn it. Words. We talk a little bit about the Blue Book or Project Blue Book?
yeah, Project Blue Book that has changed. I think the three different names, but Project Blue Book is notably they've had. Do you remember the TV series Dark Skies?
Mm-mm.
You're welcome. Look it up and watch it
All right.
if you can find it. It's really, really good. And then they also have that TV series Project Blue Book
Right.
itself. That's really, really, really good. It was one of the first ones to ever come out and say the government came out with two different reports.
Mm-hmm.
One was the truth of what they found, and the other one, well, all of a sudden now it's a weather balloon, right? And then you
It's
start
always a
hearing
weather
reports
balloon.
from individuals that were talking about the metallic metal, just the
Mhm.
metal in general, how different it was, and the strange writing that was on the metal. And then you had obviously the encounter of the occupants that were in there, right? So
Yes. I do enjoy watching the documentaries and whatnot on the Project Blue Book thing just because of if you don't know anything about it, definitely look into it because that's like I don't know, that was kind of a turning point for me into wanting to delve deeper is when I delved into that.
yeah, the Project Blue Book, the series is really good. The opening scene with the fighter plane,
Mm,
and when they were talking about what happened. Again, it's most people get their mind blown when they found out those things were called Foo Fighters, and of course they got the Foo Fighters band, and that's what they're named after, right? So, but
and something.
a few weeks ago, and I was saying this at the beginning, I was laying in bed minding my own business, and I it was probably about like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and it sounded like rolling thunder, except it lasted a lot longer and it got a lot louder, and it started decreasing by a little bit. And you went outside, and because it was a moonlit night, and this is the
Mhm.
second time I've seen this now, I can't tell you how high this thing was, but you could hear it and you could see it, and she was moving quick. Um,
Okay.
uh, I won't say it's alien in origin. It definitely sounds like because the fact that it had sound,
Right.
but it was very fast and very high,
It
and the
was
fact.
something in the sky that you would question. You're not saying it's one thing or another,
Oh,
but you
yeah, definitely
let's
not.
question it. Yeah.
It almost had, like, the contrails almost looked like it was pulsing, is the best way to describe it.
Okay.
So if it's high
Interesting.
enough where you get into the stratosphere up there's no air. So you have a
Right.
different form of propulsion, right?
Mhm.
Now, this was already talked about long before Dark Star was a thing in Top Gun 2. So I know a lot of people are, "Oh, you're talking about Dark Star." No, this Project Aurora has been around for a very, very long time. Prior to that, there have been a lot of renderings about this plane. Some have called it the son of the Blackbird. Um, it's kind of funny though. You remember the U-2 spy plane? I thought that I thought that U-2 had been decommissioned. The only two reasons why I bring this up is because number one, right down the road from me is Dobbins Air Force Base, and they had to work on one from NASA, so we got to see that thing fly in.
Okay.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You actually have to have a vehicle chase it when it comes in landing because it has not bicycle wheels, but the tires are in tandem,
Okay. Uh-huh.
right? So you
Wow.
actually have to have a truck or somebody come in underneath with that to keep the wing balanced,
Mhm.
so it
Oh,
doesn't tip
wow.
over. But that Chinese balloon incident that, will date this episode a little bit here that just happened, apparently, and I can't find the reports now, and I found 8 different reports on it and probably look it up and find it somewhere else. We had a U-2 spy plane fly around it a few days before it was even reported. And my takeaway was from that, I thought we decommissioned those things,
Right.
right?
So why
But then
what's
again, we
what's
still
going
got the
on?
B-52 bomber, which is the freaking massive. That dinosaur still keeps moving. I don't know how. But then, of course, the SR-71 Blackbird, which I believe all are grounded. There might be some exo prototypes that NASA has, but what else do we have there? And now you move forward. It's like the F-117 Nighthawk, which was
Mhm.
our first stealth aircraft for reconnaissance purpose, was not a fighter. Was kept under wraps for a very long time,
Mhm.
right? So, of course, you've got the B-2 Spirit, and now its successor that's out that's a little bit smaller, but it can control drones. Like, the technology is getting stupid at this point. It's ridiculous, and the capabilities and what they can do. But that
Mhm.
being said, it's not far-fetched to say that we've got technology out there that's capable of said Mach 10, like from the movie, or
Mhm.
even beyond. Because you
Yeah.
get to the point where you're so high up there, it
Mhm.
doesn't even matter anymore. You've got, satellites that are traversing the Earth at 18,000 miles an hour, you know. So it's just, I think it's pretty cool in what we have, but then we just still don't have the technology to go from 66,000 feet, 36,000 feet down to inches above the water, stop on a dime, and still not look like JELLO,
Mhm.
because that's virtually what you turn into at that rate of speed, right? So
Mhm.
that's
It's
that's that's the thing where it's like a common sense, like common
yay
sense.
science.
Yeah, exactly. It's physics. Like, even think about the material. That's like you start thinking in engineering wise. Think
Right.
about the material and the kind of stress, the chassis that
Mhm.
the skeletal makeup of the structure would take in order to exhibit those kind of maneuvers, let alone pull them off and
Mhm.
still keep its shape,
Right.
right? Better yet, explain to me why they can still move the speeds that they can underwater. That's the other thing that throws me off. It's not just gravity, but underwater, they're traveling hundreds of miles an hour.
Mhm.
So it is gravity manipulation. Bob Lazar even, talked about that. I talk a lot about Bob because of what he's done for the UFO community and
Mhm.
really for in my opinion, for humankind.
Right. Just
Um,
humanity in general, bringing it
yeah,
to
because
light and
he's
whatnot.
exposed a lot out there, and he's like,
Mhm.
granted he did it to save his life, but little did he know what kind of movement that he would start.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
you know, so I'll give if it's okay if I give a shout out to someone out there on YouTube,
Absolutely.
but somebody who's been through a lot, and one of his channels I've been watching for a very long time is Tyler with Secure Team 10. And if you haven't watched his stuff, go back, years, and he has amazing, amazing content. And he's actually, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken, he's not too far from where you were up there in Michigan. I think he's just south of you. I think he's in Ohio,
Oh,
but
okay. Mhm.
he's got millions of viewers on his YouTube and
Okay.
very loved in the UFO community. And he's got some incredible stuff that you guys need to see in terms of like just content of UFOs that have just been sent to him. He did an
Okay.
interview with Bob Lazar a few years ago, which was great to see. And there is a movie
Absolutely.
and a documentary of Bob Lazar that I also encourage everybody to see as well to get them up to
Hmm.
speed.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
have to give that a whirl. Put it on the list. I have so much. So
There's
much.
a lot, and it just keeps going. Like I said, right now, this conversation we're having is very tip of the iceberg because we can go
It
down a
really
lot.
is.
It is. It is. It's really setting us up for something down because you want to talk about Men in Black, right? The actual program that was started for
Mhm.
the Secret Service before the CIA even started, even before the Secret Service was started. And then
Yeah.
what Men in Black were and how they've changed and how some people are even saying these agents just didn't seem human down to the pale skin the way
Mhm.
they acted. They look like twins, right? So there are a lot of things like, we could show videos, show reports on the current
Oh,
UFO
absolutely.
sightings that are happening, the different types of UFOs that have been shown, the actual Star Wars program that was initiated underneath Reagan, right?
Mhm.
There are a lot. There's a lot. I mean, there's so much.
So much. Yes. The- I just, I would love to interview somebody that has like an abduction story just to kind of pick their brain, not so much a dream because some people are like, well, it's probably a dream. But then you get into the like, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't type of thing, like, did you actually get beamed up or was they like take your energy up? Like, do, do they take your whole body, like our physical body, like you're just missing? Like, is that where our missing people are going? Like,
Well, I mean, this is where one of those things that it's where I could see what you're saying, but when you have a physical, and again, I don't know, but when you have a physical implant in you, there's plenty of documented cases on foreign objects being found in human beings by
Mhm,
normal doctors that can't explain it, how it got in there. They can't even find a surgical mark on how it
mhm.
got in you, right? Behind the eye, in your toe, in inside the bone, right? That are just foreign that they're finding in these scans and these X-rays.
So whenever I go to the airport to fly, they scan and rescan my ankle and had me take off my socks and shoes, my right ankle. And the one time the lady was like, if she had it, I'd see it. And I'm like, had what? And see what? Why does this always? I've never had surgery on my ankles, but it
Have
makes
you Have you had an X-ray done?
not never in my ankles.
I mean, you're gonna get a lot of people on this at this point here where they're gonna. Well, look, it's official. We're starting Gigi's GoFundMe to X-ray her ankle.
I just thought it was so good. My first time, I was just like, wait, what? And I was flying out to Vegas with my little brother, and he's just like, he's all happy. He goes through, he turns around, he's like, Sissy, where are you? I was like, oh, and they're like searching me all over and got me like this. And they get down to the ankle, and it keeps going off, keeps going off. And I strip my foot down. Same both times going out to Boston, same thing. I'm like,
Wow.
I got nothing, guys. The last time I think I had like capris on. So I was like, oh, it's gonna happen again. Here we go. I'll just prepare for it. Here's my leg. And it sure as shit it happened.
Yeah.
I have no scars, no nothing there.
What I'm saying. So that's we don't know until you take it, but that's the thing. Obviously you know about this, but like the movie The Fourth Kind,
Mhm.
where hypnosis might help. Have you undergone that?
Not the ET hypnosis. So Mama Mary does that. And she does that
Okay.
for MUFON actually. I did a past life regression hypnosis. Um, and this is just water. I'm just letting you know that.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I have not. I I'm having fun doing what I'm doing and not trying to like be one. That does makes absolutely no sense. I know
Uh-huh.
that.
Yeah, because I was gonna say make it really easy on getting an alien abductee as a guest when you are one.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
interview yourself. This would be good. I'll watch.
Oh Lord. Good luck. Good luck, everybody. About that GoFundMe, I'm gonna need one after that. That's
No,
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm actually hoping to go to some of the MUFON conventions this year. Well, for one, to go support Mama Mary, and I hope
right.
you can come up to at least one of them. Um,
Let me know when.
absolutely, because like I said, she does it for the MUFON group, but she does it so everybody can see. Like she does it like individually, but when she does it at the convention, she does it in front of the group of people so they can see the whole process and see, and these people are vulnerable getting up there. So like she takes it as a great honor when somebody trusts her enough to be able to do that in front of a group of people. It's one thing to
Give her
do
the
it in
great honor.
private, and it
You
just
should do this. I'll support you.
oh, that's so kind.
Yeah, I'll have a camera and everything.
And everything. It'll be great. I'll give you a tucker afterwards. You can have a cookie. Just do it. Yeah. So the personal unknowing is what's scary to me, I guess, about things like that. Like I'm all right listening to other people, and I want to learn. I'm
Right.
enjoying my journey of learning. Let's say some crazy whatever I have been, and they keep tabs on me, and I know, like, let's just say I'm not crazy, and they got in there, and they're like, here's this and this and this, and I have like so much knowledge up there, and let's say that triggers it out. I'm not ready for all that nonsense. I'll just be honest.
No, I get that.
Maybe I'm really smart. I just don't know it. Huh?
What I tell everyone. But
How amazing.
but yeah, like I said, there are a lot of topics here that
Mhm.
to expand on. That your Alien Edition show could even branch off and be its own thing for a very, very long time.
Oh,
As
absolutely
it
fine.
expands, and the thing that I implore, a lot of your listeners to, I think I might have froze here, but what I implore some of your all your listeners to do, if you've got stories or you
Mm,
have footage you want to share, send them to Gigi, right? And we can
yes.
talk about it on alien settings next time. Definitely show, like, where would they send that to? What would be a good email?
Oh, oh, thank you for hosting my show. And I'm all thinking about myself, like, oh my God, where did that amount of time go? Obviously, you can email them at paranormalxl@rightmeat.com.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I would love to see what people have. Like, I
Yes.
really, 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 really do. Like, it's one thing to pull things off the internet, but it
Mhm.
would be another for us, for one, to take a look at your footage and what your
Exactly.
explanation is of it. And if we pick it, we'll put it on the, you'll put it on the show.
Well, absolutely. Like you just said, though, researching this stuff is always research, like I've always said. But it's when you get into a topic like this, it is much more interesting and takes a different turn when you can talk to somebody that's actually been through it, the personal experiences of something like that.
Right.
You get way more out of it than just reading it on the internet.
So,
But anyway, yeah, this went longer than I thought. We didn't even stick to one topic.
like I
Oh
said,
my
this was
goodness.
definitely the tip of the iceberg type of intro to,
Hmm.
obviously, to me and you on the alien side
Hmm.
of things, and things that I where if we want to stick down one topic, then absolutely. But I wanted to give an idea of how much there actually is in this topic. It's not just
Absolutely.
all aliens. It's
Right.
so
Children,
much more
men.
than that.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So you have anything more you want to say before we end this segment?
No, really don't. I'm shy.
I, I'll call bullshit on that one.
So
so so you will be on next time, right? Correct or more,
yeah, no,
obviously.
absolutely. I obviously love being on the show. Love being on here. You just let me know whenever. I definitely want to help the community that's out there
Mm.
and try to explain what they have. I don't have all the answers, but I can definitely give our ideas.
Oh,
Being
absolutely.
and doing this for,
Mhm,
for almost 3 decades.
mhm.
Golly, of research and looking. I had a I know, here, I'm a big nerd, okay? I had a UFO club when I was a young kid. And that's how
Oh,
passionate I was about it. I did. I did. I
I
had a
love
UFO
that
club.
so
I
much.
did. I did. I
That is
started it, I think, when I was
wonderful.
after, actually, we saw that, I started when I was 8, I think, is when we had it. I actually even got a few members, which was fun. Um, Now granted, I don't know what we did, but they were part of my club.
It's all that matters, man.
That's
You
all
had
that
members
matters.
of your club.
But, yeah, no, it was something very passionate about, and obviously, as you become an adult, I think that's what I am. Um, Now there are more adultier adults than myself, I assure you, but
Me too.
Uh, but you start learning, and understanding things, that this is not only very serious, it's a lot bigger than you, and you don't have all the answers.
Mhm.
Therefore, I can't say it exists nor it doesn't exist. All I can say is this is the data, this is
Mhm.
what we experienced, and these are the pieces. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then you get some people like, I don't see your pieces, and I'm done talking to you at that point.
Goodbye. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
yes,
So yeah.
totally. So yes, we will obviously continue this and get a little more in depth in some of the topics.
Yeah.
So yeah, until next time, remember, stay kind, stay humble, and don't yuck someone else's yum ever.